Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Santhosh and welcome to Social Conversations, where we get the privilege of sitting down with some change makers in the social space, finding out a little bit more about their journeys and why they do what they do. Today I have with me Ms. Ngiam Su-Lin, co-founder and executive director of ArtsWok. ArtsWok Collaborative is an arts-based community development organization that nurtures thriving communities by harnessing the power of the arts to create dialogue and invite social participation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Before we get started, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what ArtsWok does. And yeah.
So, I mean, we're an arts company, a non-profit company. We've been around for about 7 years now. Cool. And we work at the intersection of arts and community work. Specifically interested in community development work.
Right.
And essentially, we play the role of intermediary and creative producer.
Okay.
So if I could use the metaphor of ArtsWok, what that means is, so the arts is like a medium and a process by which we do our work. And the walk is this container or space where we create the conditions for the work to happen that leads to community development. So for example, so we're kind of like the chefs, right?
Yeah.
And we curate like the ingredients, and the ingredients are resources like, you know, the artists, the creatives, the community partners, community members, funders, so on and so forth. And then we actually like come up with the recipes, which are like the projects, right? So we design it. So program design. Sometimes they are sort of chosen, or sometimes they're made with the communities. So they're co-designed with communities. And then we do the actual cooking, like the time, you know. So we bring the community, the ingredients together, and then we mix it up. And that, you know, typically involves a lot of communication, facilitation work. You know, to your admin and evaluation and all of that. So, I mean, to unpack it, that's essentially what we do. Sort of three key areas: creative producing, capability development, research and advocacy. And what's interesting about this project is that we're interested in seeding the importance of end-of-life conversations. So end-of-life is typically quite a taboo topic. And we've been doing this work since 2013. It's community-based, and from moving from like a, you know, 1 week we go into a community to do this kind of work, we've actually adopted a much deeper community-centric approach, where we're in Chong Pang for 2 years, in Telok Blangah for 3 years. And because working with communities, you need to build relationships, you know, earn trust, get your stakeholders in place. And the arts is wonderful for that, you know, in terms of creating that kind of social consciousness or change. Because especially with challenging topics, the arts gives that space to use the imagination, creativity. We use storytelling a lot.
As the co-founder of ArtsWok, I mean, you've seen this avenue to do so many different things, but before you started this, what kind of really pushed you towards thinking about this as a project?
I mean, for me, it really was about looking at different approaches to doing community engagement, building and development work. I think there's a general frustration with existing models. I think some of them work to a certain extent, some less well. I think there's a big reliance on formal services. Where is community agency and community leadership? Are there alternative models to a more sort of social science approach? So that was the impetus. My own training is in you know, psychology, the arts, spirituality, development work, and I was really interested in seeing how can I bring these elements together.
Cool. No, that's great. But right now, see, you mentioned Both Sides Now and the project you guys are doing here in Chong Pang. You said you guys have been here 2 years. That's the plan. How do you think that has helped, and how do you think this extended period has really helped the community as a whole?
So when we have an extended period of time to do work in a community, which I think is really, really valuable, and I'm so grateful to the stakeholders in this project for giving us that time and space to do this work, that we're not anxious about KPIs or outcomes, being, you know, having to achieve them within a particular period of time. I mean, of course, boundaries and constraints are important as well, but because I think especially when we're looking at community development work, it is very relationship based. So unless you can earn trust and you can build relationships, you're not going to go very far with the kind of change work you want to do. And what that has meant is we've been able to pop up every 6 months with different types of approaches, performances, participatory artworks. We've done workshops, more exploratory arts-based workshops where we're looking at making artworks based on responses to questions about end of life. to very skills-based kind of workshops where we are, building competencies in the community about, we call them rehearsals for life, right? So how do you rehearse having an end-of-life conversation with someone who's important to you, but you're not quite sure how to get started or how to have that conversation. So let's do it together, let's practice, right? Those types of workshops. To understanding how, like, from a healthcare perspective or a community or social worker perspective, when you do this work in community, because honestly, we come in and we're gone, and an ethical way of working is how do you enable the work to be sustained, and how do you work with local stakeholders so that they can continue the work, and thankfully, the ones here are interested to do that kind of work. So we've been talking about training healthcare workers or staff, the wellness kampungs to continue the work after we're gone. We're developing toolkits and training modules, and so we really want the work to flourish. And then how can we bring this to other communities?
Very cool. With all the different kinds of work that you guys do, I'm sure you come into contact with a lot of different stories and a lot of different people. Is there any story that really stood out to you, or any interaction that really stuck with you?
Wow, there are like so many. I would say, okay, so we've had stories from when we did this in 2014. We actually had an installation of a coffin, and we invited people to lie in the coffin.
Yeah, I've had friends that have actually been to that.
Oh,
and
nice,
told me about it.
Nice. And we actually had a soundscape, so stories of people sharing about their end-of-life experiences or having conversations with family members. So as you lie in the coffin, you're listening to these stories, and the whole idea is to stimulate you and to think about these things for yourself. So if it were you, what would you do? Or, there was this girl who came night after night, and she was challenging herself to lie in that coffin. But sort of summoning up her courage, and her mom had told her, please do not do it. But she was challenging herself, and I think stories like that really touch me, because I see a very direct response to the work. And how can we create personal shifts for ourselves, where ordinarily in daily life, I think we don't have these opportunities. So that was a very sort of direct, when I saw how the arts can work in creating personal change, and it starts from there, right? I
guess because when you're talking about something so like stigmatized, so taboo, then it's because people don't really understand that other people go through the exact same struggles, or other people are facing those same like issues, right? And having people interact with each other in this way, that people they might not even know, really kind of helps them understand that they're not alone, and that this is a conversation everyone should have. That's really beautiful.
Practicing empathy, it's a kind of an oxymoron. You hope the empathy, of course it's organic and innate, but sometimes, I think sometimes our society can be quite hard, or we're very kiasi, and just very competitive, or we forget, to slow down and to make time and space for these sorts of encounters. And for now, if it has to be facilitated, the conditions, so be it. But we're hoping with more and more practice that this becomes just part of everyday life, and how do we reconnect, and how do we have those challenging conversations about issues that can be divisive, or but I think learning how to dialogue and share space and hold space.
Right, because you think that Singapore, at least as a Singaporean, we know how to dialogue, like we can talk to each other at least, and doing it in like a void deck is such a powerful thing, because this is where conversation usually happens, and turning that conversation into something important is such a great piece of work. But just to talk about all the different people that you guys have worked with, so from like Drama Box to Lian Center.
Lian Foundation.
Oh, Lian Foundation, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The Lian Foundation. How do you think this collaboration of different groups really has helped this situation and this social cause?
So I believe that, don't collaborate for the sake of collaborating, right? Collaborate because you believe that, alone you can't do the work successfully, or there is something that is incomplete, and you need other partners or stakeholders to come in so that together you're stronger. So the intention to collaborate and the motivations behind it are really, really important. I think for an issue like end of life, or any other kind of really challenging social issue, no one has the full story or the full narrative. So different collaborators bring different perspectives and information.
After receiving all this information, what's next for this movement? What do you guys have planned next after your engagement here at Chongpang and at Telok Blangah? What are you guys going to do moving forward?
I think for ArtsWok as a whole, in terms of the organization, we're really interested in looking at how do we, so again coming back to community development, right? we're really interested in doing place-based work.
Right.
So, you know, having some sort of a creative community center is something we've been dreaming about and looking for like-minded partners. How can we have a community center in the heart of, you know, in the heartlands, but its approaches, its leadership, its practices are creative and arts based. It doesn't mean only artists can do the work. So, you know, you can have artists working with social services, community health, but can we be located in the same space, in the same building?
Right.
And if you have leadership that has the same vision, and so the curation of these sorts of partners are crucial. If you're on the same page in terms of using different types of approaches to achieving particular community-based outcomes, that's already, you know, I think a huge difference. And I think an arts and cultural approach is something that hasn't been explored enough in community-based work, in placemaking work. And I mean, apart from bringing different diverse populations into such a space, which I think the vibe and the energy will already be quite different from the way the space is designed, the types of activities, or even the way services are offered in that space, but also then the way we go out and work in communities, so very much like what we're doing in Chong Pang and Telok Blangah. I think that kind of a relationship with the community, that kind of shifts, you know, the way that current community development approaches are being done. So that's something we've been dreaming up quite a lot, because I think space is important for visibility, for the encounter. So going back to that whole, you know, walk metaphor, right? I think it's very it's not given enough value how we design spaces, and I'm talking about physical but psychological space, and that is the foundation into which being and ways of relating can be different.
Yeah, and I've grown up in the heartlands my entire life, and it's always taken me a lot more effort to get into the arts world. You know?
I mean, there are performances and projects that happen, but they're ad hoc, they're not long term, and they pop up and they're gone.
You're right.
But there's nothing that is kind of like foundational to that community, and it really informs even the look and feel of that space. I think that's what we're talking about.
Thank you so much. I think that has been more than enough. This has been great, learning so much through this short conversation. I think you guys are doing incredible work, and I can't wait to see what you guys produce in the future. But this has been another episode of Social Conversations. I am Santhosh Watson, and with me is Ngiam Su-Lin, the co-founder of ArtsWok. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you guys next week. If you guys have learned anything new, feel free to add it in the comment section down below. Share this with anyone else that might learn something new and join the social space today. Thank you so much.